So yeah, you brought in, if there are a cultural difference in morals and those don't align or they conflict, who's good, who's bad,
Right.
it's so blurry, which circles back to the question, how can humans be innately good? And I would propose they can't be.
Yo, B, let's go.
You may have seen the clip and maybe heard word of mouth, yet another podcast. Man, what could it be about? Is it truth or opinion? A couple of contradictions. We're here to challenge tradition and twist your vision. So we set on a mission to bring you rebel wisdom.
Welcome back, Rebels, to another episode of Rebel Wisdom. I'm Julian here with my co-host B, and we're going to dive into another topic, as we like to do, kind of looking at how society views humans from the standpoint of, are humans inherently good? I think that's going to be our entering question. And I think society says that, humans typically are born good, and then you're sculpted throughout your life. Right. And I think we say no against that. We're gonna challenge that humans are born inherently good, and kind of go into why. With that thought, B, I want to, if you can dig back into the depths of your brain, what do you I want to kind of play with this question as we enter this topic. What do you think some of your earliest teachings are regarding anything, just in life? Whether it was like formally taught or just, things you remember maybe picking up on, but like, just what do you think some of your earliest teachings are?
I mean, just coming from the Japanese culture, I mean, when you're taught the language, you're taught to speak to certain people, the certain people being like random people that you encounter in a respectable manner. Like, I mean, I guess in English, there's you can say some things respectfully, but then like, that's not really, there's no whole different sets of vocabulary for that.
Okay.
Whereas in Japanese there is, and then obviously, people bow to everyone instead of shaking hands to show the respect. And so I think just like showing respect to others is the earliest thing that I was probably taught, I think.
Interesting. Embedded in the culture. And I can, again, right. So I was fortunate enough we were both in the military. We served together. That's some of our background, actually how we met. And again, I didn't grow up in that, but I just want to state this to add to your story. I can attest to the fact that when I was in Japan, Ohio means good morning, correct?
Yeah.
But if you say Ohio gozaimasu, that's like extra respectful. And you tend to say that to older people, right?
That's right. But then if you don't know someone, you would say that
too, right? Yeah. It's just more respectful. Perfect. So I don't know. I think that's just a cool little interesting thing that I personally learned and like utilized when I was in Japan. I'm trying to think some of my earliest teachings, whether they were verbal or not. Surely I think just general respect. Like, I guess I'm trying to think something like in true, like, I mean, I don't remember anything from like infancy, but I guess just to like going along those lines, like greet people when you enter a space, just say hello, whether you know them, whether you don't know them, just to acknowledge someone else. I know was definitely like instilled in me very early on that, I don't know if everybody taught that, but certainly within my household or whatever, like I would say like, hey, you always greet people. So I guess kind of gives background on to what we were taught, but that is perfect to segue into what I'm about to propose, which there is this thing called, there's a blank slate theory, which basically suggests that all humans are born, you're neutral. Which I think from a literal sense is true. Like you're born without influence. It's not like you're in the womb, which I don't know. There would be like, there would be there's maybe certain genetic things that are passed on, right? But for the most part, I think this too. I agree with the blank slate theory that you're born neutral.
Yeah, which I you don't hear about it talked a lot. I think the more common narrative, at least in the United States, I really don't know for other countries, but
yeah,
like I hear that humans are born good. With the blank state, they're on the good side already from the beginning,
right?
Which we're here to rebel against. And I used to think that. I used to think like, I mean, I look at myself as a good person, in quote.
Yeah.
But then, like, so I was like, oh, like humans should be, they're probably, because of outside influences, they come into danger or some sort of scarcity, some sort like the way that they were brought up. So that's why they are harmful or mean or, those negative traits that we could see.
Mhm.
But then the more I learn about different, like, I guess, human behaviors, I'm starting to think that, everything is taught
Yes.
besides the genetic, things that you talked
Yep.
about. That we just know we know to eat without thinking about it. We know,
Mm. Yeah, I'm a big believer in learned behaviors, but yeah, both ways. And it's funny now because in our adult life, right, I do give benefit of the doubt. So if I meet somebody and literally I haven't heard about you from anybody else, don't know you as being a human, we talked about this one episode, I'm gonna make some prejudgments like by looking at you, right? It's human behavior, which I try to minimize acting on those, but I'm gonna make things in my head about you, but I'm gonna assume you're good until you tell me otherwise,
yeah.
right? But again, that's as adulthood, we're already formed, we've already experienced life, we've already been subjected to these worldly happenings. When you're born, that's not
You
true.
don't know that, yeah.
You're literally ground truth. You start. So it'd be cool to see if there was an experiment that existed where you had a baby in a vacuum that got nutrients, no social stimuli,
Man.
no teachings, and like at 5, like how at 1, how we're at 2, I hope there's no child out there experiencing that. But it would be kind of from like sociological standpoint, what would
Yeah.
and then they're, I don't know, 7, and you put them in school, and like, are they mean to other people? Are they extremely kind? Like, it would be kind of cool to see.
There was a documented human that, I don't know, I'm sure he was abandoned as a kid, obviously, but then he grew up with, I want to say it was wolves. Like, he was like in
Hey,
part of their pack.
It's a real life like Tarzan.
Yeah, no, literally. And then obviously he didn't speak a language.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he growled and howled and like walked on four, not on just 4 feet, but like on your hands and feet. And then, I mean, that would be the closest.
It would be.
But I didn't read I didn't read anything about how he behaved around humans.
Yes.
Because I don't think they brought him into society. Yeah, I think I did read about how they were trying to teach him a language and he just couldn't learn.
Right. I would imagine, right? I didn't see this experiment or anything, but I think we can assume, how do you think he would treat humans? He'd probably sniff at you, he'd probably swipe at you.
Yeah.
And I think you already said like there's instinctual behaviors that like for purposes of survival, that in that environment you would develop that we would deem as rude or aggressive or off-putting. But dude's just trying to survive out here. You know what I mean? Like, so
I think in the survival state, which that's the instinct that we're talking about, I think that brings out more negative traits rather than good.
That's what. Yep.
Because in civilized society,
Yes.
like I'm talking about, like when we transition from hunter gatherers to the agricultural people, farm people, like that you need to be kind to survive, so you don't get kicked out the pack, or not the pack, but your village, right? Your village or your kingdom, whatnot,
Or whatever. Yeah.
So, and then obviously in farming, like you need a lot of people to feed even more people.
Yep.
But then if you're in a tribe or whatnot, that's hunting gathering, like you just need your little clique of people to.
There's still a social aspect to that,
Right?
Like
There's
they probably treat each other well.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But that's all for their own benefit.
Yeah.
But then if an outsider were to come in, like that's survival. Like,
Right.
you need to survive.
Assuming you're bad.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
But if you don't, like, I don't think people would have survived if the instinctual like method of identifying people or anything was like, oh, hey, they're inherently good. I don't think we would be here today.
Okay. Dude, good point. Yeah.
So maybe a blank state, but I don't know. Maybe we could make an argument that leans towards
Bad.
people are inherently bad to be, and you're taught to act in a civil way.
I like it. All right, we're gonna do a little hypothetical pretend game. I have a bucket of good and I have a bucket of bad. I'm gonna give you a word and tell me what bucket it goes in. Aggression.
Bad.
I think that's I think we give that a bad negative or a bad connotation. I think they needed that aggression, in the formative period or whatever that you just said to survive, right? You need that. But society in this civil world, as you said, which I think is really good, the civilized period that we're in now.
You're so aggressive.
Dude, you're aggressive. You get aggressive on a work evaluation. That's like something to be worked on.
Yeah.
But then you probably needed to be aggressive, right? I think that's interesting. Trying to think if there's another word. I mean, that's the main one to like kind of showcase the point. But to your point, maybe you're born with more negative, but maybe not. Let's back up, because that aggression is going to be learned for survival. It's not.
Is that? But that's
But,
that's
you know
the,
what I mean?
that's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah,
that
but it's
I think a lot of things are learned, but then I think
But-
there's something in our DNA,
Mhm.
in a way of instinct that we talked about,
Mhm.
that brings us towards the bad,
right. I'm trying to. Yeah.
and that just gets suppressed in today's society,
Yes.
which is a good thing. I do
Yes.
right, but when we're looking at people
Right.
without at the blank state,
Right.
with no outside influences, survival instinct would take over.
Yes.
Where it would create
Yeah.
more harm than good.
And okay, so when we say blank slate, when we say outside influences, taking that away, I think I'm trying to define the outside influences as concise as I can. I think we're mostly referring to other humans, because
Yes.
if you put somebody, they're still going to experience hunger and wildlife, and those things are then going to drive them to find something to nourish, and then they might experience something where they have to fight and fend for themselves. So I think mostly when we're saying outside, in quotations, right, outside influences, it's mostly humans.
And just to
You can't take away every like life. Like you have to.
go into, I mean, where do you think those outside humans are? Where are they at? I think they're mostly in the family.
Yep.
Mostly
Or
in
the tribe or village or
like work or school,
Mhm.
like whatever your occupation is. Like video games, social media, like all those,
Okay.
taking effect.
I agree. Yes. Yeah, especially today's.
Religion is a big one.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes. I think that has a big social context. Yeah, right. So, I think that kind of lays a strong foundation of, in the more formalized settings, you learn good, I'll say, right? But in the natural settings, I think you learn what we deem as bad. So again, only once you introduce other humans can you say something is formalized or civilized, and that's when you experience that shift, I think. Yeah.
And talking about, outside influences, we were talking about the what's the experiment called?
Milgram's obedience experiment. That's
Yep.
what you're talking about?
Yeah, so that was in the 1960s.
I think it was like
right?
60s.
Yeah, 1960s, and the basically premise of the experiment is, if you read like any a psychology book, it's heavily mentioned. I read a few books that mentioned it a few times, so it's not something that's it's well known.
Definitely.
But basically, there were three subjects in the experiment where two of them are in the control group. So there is the test subject, that's one, and there's the two controls, and the two controls were basically there was a guy that's giving instructions.
Yes, leading the experiment.
Okay, right. And then another control group subject is in a chair that shocks
Yep.
this person, right? But then it doesn't actually shock them.
Yes.
So it's like a fake shock. He's an actor.
Yep.
So basically, the guy leading the subject will tell the experiment subject, like getting the guy or girl that's getting experimented on, say, hey, I'm gonna give a question, and if the actor in the chair gets it wrong, you have to give him a little shock.
Yep.
And I think the premise of the experiment was to enhance memory or test memory or something, cognitive function that they're testing. And then, so at first, doesn't seem right. Like everyone's gotten like shocked, like,
Sure.
right? Nothing really harmful, right? But the little caveat is, each question that they get wrong, the next shock becomes more deadly than the previous one.
Yeah.
So maybe for the first 10 shocks, it's like, oh, it's getting hurt, like eye hurts. Oh, its liver hurts more. But then you can imagine at a certain point,
Mm-hmm.
you know they're gonna just fry themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And obviously the guy is an actor, so he's not gonna really die.
Yeah.
But then the test subject, they don't
No,
know
doesn't
that.
know that.
And with the argument saying, hey, people are inherently good. So there is a, in this experiment, there is a external factor, which is the leader,
Yeah.
the host of the experiment that's asking the questions. Like he is the authority figure in this example, right? If they are good, we should expect to see some sort of, I don't want to say discomfort because that might not be strong enough of emotion.
Yeah.
But at least to retaliate and say, hey, this has to stop. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should see some sense of them fighting back. Like there's a person prompting them to like, hey, give the next question. Or I think they were telling them to give the shock. The person hosting the experiment was saying things like, continue the experiment. They were prompting them to continue. Nope, they need more shocks. Administer another shock. And they were like, this experiment must go on. Phrases like that. And you would expect a person that doesn't know that those shots that they're giving, their person who button to shock them are fake.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm not doing it anymore. Hey, we need to stop. And I think they said the shock ranges from like 0 volts to 450 and 450 being deadly. I think it's deadly before that, but that's how much it was simulated up to. So the person giving the shocks was told like, hey, 0 to 450. And they said like 60% of the participants would give up to 300 volts.
Which is definitely
which is enough to, or yeah, probably, or also heart. Yeah, 300 volts, yeah, for sure. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, and then you would what's the statistics on that? You said 60.
So 65%
would give up
the participants gave 300 volts.
What about the other 35%?
I didn't say. It didn't say. Well, at least from what we read, yeah.
Okay, but then you would
still the overwhelming majority.
I mean, like if you ask this question in like a I don't know, if there's no outside authority telling you to be obedient, act in an obedient manner, like you would say, hey, Julian, like in this example, would you deliver a shock to the point that someone's gonna die? You're like, oh, I don't know, like where's no thought. Yeah, but that's the good that we're taught, I feel like. But in our inherent, like where there's pressure on the line and when there's, in I guess a real world simulation, this is fake, but like we know for a fact that 65% of them would have, I don't want to say they had no problems killing them, but they did it. They were like, hey, I'm gonna do this. Like he just got the question wrong, right?
Yeah.
So with that argument, I don't like, that was the first indications of when I read this. I'm like, man, maybe humans aren't so good
as we thought.
And then
I think it introduces another question, right? You have, are humans inherently good or not, which we kind of talked about, why we might think their blank would be most appropriate, or maybe even inherently bad for reasons we stated. But now the second question is, okay, let's say humans are inherently good. How influenceable are humans? Because even if you're inherently good, internally you're good, if you can easily be swayed, what good does you if you're good? Hey, I'm a good person. I tell you I'm good. Okay, Julian, let's go. Hey, Julian, I'm your best friend, and I need you to come with me to like kill this person. All right. Okay, I was good, or I am. Like now, if I'm highly influenceable, it almost does no good if I'm good.
Okay. You have to stand your ground.
Yeah,
like good to be.
Yeah, there's like another element added to being good. And I think there's been plenty of instances in history where we can see masses of people being influenced
to do bad,
to not be good, to do bad, maybe against their will. And we'll never know if those humans acting in these genocides, these school shootings, these mass atrocities, whatever, we'll never know if they were good. I mean, once you commit that act, in my eyes, you're not good.
You're not. That's exactly the thing I want to go into.
Yeah.
Like if you think of like a superhero, right? It's like, something is bad, something is good. It doesn't match. Therefore, I'm gonna stand up against the bad to prove my good.
Yeah, right. It's very
So with that, like, there's no way, like, humans would literally put your survival on top of, or that's the ultimate good in their eyes because they can survive for themselves, which is super selfish. And I mean, if you put a definition to it, do I blame them for it? Which that's a different story, but they're not standing up to the good, which therefore we can conclude that they are not good.
Yes.
And that comes from what you said, they're influenceable, or maybe they're, regardless of which way it comes from, humans probably not good. And that's justified because of survival reasons. But when we say that in public, well, humans are inherently good, I don't think that's a true.
Yeah, are there?
Yeah, I don't think there is. And I mean, if you're in social media, I mean, which who's not, right?
Yeah.
But you see so much scams out there. Like even if you're on Facebook, like I get like a couple messages a year where like it's like an actual friend that I have on Facebook. They're like, oh, we know if you know how, like you haven't talked to them in like 10 years. And you get a random message like, hey, Andrew, like I'm in such, this happened to me, blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, this is a scam. Someone's hacking their account. You go on YouTube, you see, on any finance channel, there's like WhatsApp numbers. Hey, text this number to get a 4,000% return in 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's so many, Twitter, Instagram, there's so much scams out there, and that's inherently bad.
Yes.
I mean, you see it everywhere. And then that kind of leads into, okay, when you look at the scammers in this space, right? Typically, they're from not the United States. They're from other countries. Right? I don't want to give names, but like everyone knows. Everyone knows what everyone knows what I'm talking about. They're from typically like one of 3 countries that are trying to scam people. And then I was like, okay, if that's the case, right? Is there like a cultural influence on how to be good or bad? Because what if, like, obviously we know that stealing is not good,
right?
But what if in their culture, for some reason, I know it's not, but maybe in their little circle of influence, they made it okay for them to steal, and then those particular humans were influenced in a way. They're like, oh, I'm just taking it from. Oh, maybe they live in the United States. Like they live a good life. Yeah. If I take $500 from them to feed my family.
Yeah.
So what if it's like culturally it's acceptable to be bad?
That's great. This is great.
If that's the case, right? There's no morals within you that would say this is good or bad, because I would like to think at a certain point there's some moral, I don't know, standard or
laws, like or something. Yeah,
it's like something. I want to think that something in my morals and my soul is telling me it's not good to kill.
Right.
But if those morals are different from culture to culture, that kind of proves the point that it's taught. It's not from our DNA.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I was just in the midst of you talking. I was thinking like, we try to like break things down or peel it back. Where does the good start? What defines good? Excuse me. Which I was thinking like your system of morals. Okay. Now within that, are there some innate morals that you're born with? I don't know, or probably not. But nonetheless, when you're taught those are instilled in you, that's what you operate off of. That determines your good or bad, or really like dictates your behavior, how you act. So yeah, you brought in, if there are a cultural difference in morals and those don't align or they conflict, who's good, who's bad, it's so blurry. And we're all humans though, which circles back to the question, how can humans be innately good? Yeah. And I would propose they can't be.
No, I mean, one of the biggest, I guess, social support networks, like obviously if you're family, but then across the globe for majority, more than a majority, super majority is, has some sort of religious tie to it, right?
Yes.
And I would assume, I don't know all the religion, what they say, but I would kind of assume they say things like, hey, don't kill people, don't steal, don't do this, don't do that, right? Like, but then I guess the pressure to survive just negates all those things.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Interesting, yeah. Because I think religion, if we go back to the buckets, I'll put that in the good.
Yeah.
Just religion as a concept, I think that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, for you mentioned earlier you said either selfish
Realization
or preservation. And I think either one,
Uh-huh.
selfishness / self-preservation, bucket, bad.
Yeah.
But again, needed for survival. And now, right, if you blend the two, like you take religion, I think people leverage what religion teaches, maybe to influence people or to develop a following or to just how they're going to navigate with selfish or self-preserving motives, but they'll try to spin the religious context
Just to justify it.
to justify it for selfish reasons. So it's all, I think, intertwined, but it all comes back to it comes back to the selfish motive. And even when someone's trying to gain influence, I think they use like selfish motives. I think in the conversation of ethics or leadership or the good versus bad human topic, the Adolf Hitler always comes up as a leading example.
Does leadership take into effect ethics and morals, or like by leadership definition?
No, I think leadership can be like derived maybe from ethics or morals, but leadership is typically, if I boiled it down to a quick definition, your ability to influence. If you can influence a lot, good leader. If you can't influence, bad leader, right? And people's willingness to then follow you. So, right, Hitler, you got a definition?
Yeah, I don't like the Google. I mean, I guess Oxford Dictionary.
What we got? What does it say?
I mean, they say the action of leading a group, which I don't like when they use
Yeah, the word in the
yeah.
definition.
Action of leading a group of people or an organization.
Cool. So your ability to lead a group of people or an organization. Fine. If you can do that, good leader. The better you can do that, the better leader.
So
you can't. Right.
You would say Adolf Hitler was one of the greatest leaders.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Just
but a bad person, not good.
Yeah.
But was he born that way? I can almost guarantee you at the age of 1, 2, 3, Hitler wasn't thinking about killing millions, thousands, whatever, right? Like through what he learned and what he went through in life, he probably developed his mindset, or there was a system of beliefs that drove him to align with what he wanted to do, his selfish motives, and then the Holocaust unfolded. But I don't think he was born bad or good, probably.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So he was,
so yeah, good leader. He was probably a great leader, but I don't think he's a good person. But nonetheless, tying that back to, he was able to convince all these people that might have been good people to do something terrible and aid in his personal agenda to do something terrible. So it's like, I don't think people are inherently good.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And just to, I guess, play the devil's advocate for this particular situation, right? Like, I was just kind of thinking about, like, what brought Hitler to be the person that he is. But then, so he's born in 1889. So let's say, or 1889. So in World War I started in 1914, right?
Okay, so he
would be 11 plus 14, which would be 25.
Yeah, mid-20s.
So he lived through the 20s as in a very bad state where, I mean, Germany was crushed during World War I and afterwards with all the economic, they'll pay this back, we'll rebuild this from demanded from all the other countries. And then, I mean, just going through that like time and then coming out and say, hey, there is this one group of people that's causing everything. They're the bad guys. I'm going to restore Germany and give economic prosperity to all these people. Which, shoot, if I heard that, I'd be like,
by eradicating these people, yeah, how do you,
right?
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I mean, that sounds great. But then the fact that you started to see what they're doing to these so-and-so bad people, and then, I mean, I think a lot of people did. I mean, the book Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, he's a Holocaust survivor, and then he talks a lot about his experiences in the concentration camps, and he mentions like how this person did this, like he was a good person because he would give him like easy whip job. You know, like,
Right, yeah.
maybe he'll give him a little bit of more green peas on his soup.
Mm.
So it's like, you know, and then, but so people realized this is like a bad thing, and they probably, you know, obviously if they disobey, they'll get killed killed off too.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, maybe we'll try to do something nice for these people that are suffering. So
Make myself seem more good.
yeah, I mean, they're aware. They're more than aware,
They know what's going on.
but no one, you know,
Yeah.
you literally had to have like 7 different countries united against Germany to end this thing.
Yeah. Which is insane.
Yeah.
In makes me think of another, what out of the driving factors that influence people, what might be some of these biggest influences? And I would say fear. Like, so you have, I think Hitler, I don't know if he was, I'm going to assume like some of those people like feared him. And certainly the people in the concentration camps feared the Gestapos, whatever, the captors that were chasing them. So yeah, fear. And now in that experiment we said where the person is telling them to administer the shocks, I think the fear there is very low. If they didn't do it, I don't know what what happened to them, you know what I mean? But fear certainly is a big motivator to influence people, and then maybe steer you from on the good and bad spectrum.
I think it's what you just pointed out, I think it's very good because like, or shoot, good in terms of valid. Because like we talk about, okay, these people didn't stand up for others in the Holocaust.
Yep.
Like obviously, like if they did, they're gonna get killed. So I'm saying we understand, right? Is it right? No, it's not right, but we understand. But with the experiment that we talked about in the earlier episode, the precautions of not obeying these orders is like close to none.
Yeah, exactly.
They still
risk, and there's
so that not to beat the dead horse, but like that kind of emphasizes the validity of the statement that humans are not inherently good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely. So we're talking about, we kind of spoke on, when you introduce fear is a heavy influencer, influencing people on the spectrum of good and bad, where it might shift somebody, or fear has a strong ability to shift somebody on that spectrum. I mean, I guess you would also scare or use fear to have people do good. Actually, yeah. So we'll say like growing up, right? If I did something bad, I would get in trouble, right? Maybe I got spanked, right? And they're like, hey, if you don't operate in this ability, or if you don't operate in this way, if you don't do these things, I raised you better than that, I taught you this, I'm going to be threatened with taking the phone, punishing, whoopings, etc. Right? So again, just speaking to the ability of fear to make people act good or bad, I'm thinking like, what are other things that can influence people to operate in accordance with good or bad? So going back to the buckets, if I tell you, and this one's interesting because this one is not as easy to categorize, but if I say power, you going good or you going bad? That one can I don't know. What does your gut tell you? What bucket does that go into?
My gut tells me it's bad, but it's subjective, right? But I feel like just from the like historical statistics, I guess data of where power turned out to be good or bad, I think there's more instances of power being bad than good. Like obviously there's amazing like leaders in the past that had power, but in the sheer numbers, like I feel like I learned more about the bad people than the good. And
yeah,
I mean, like if people, like when people are power, it's like they feel like maybe they can't be stopped, maybe the law doesn't apply to them, maybe they can get away because of power or money, which is formal, how we have power today, which can be related to money. So I don't know, maybe I guess my gut feeling might, with that, I would make the argument that my gut feeling is correct, that power is bad.
Yeah, that's interesting because I'm leaning towards, I think power is good inherently, but I also think power corrupts, which by saying that, maybe that's an oxymoronic statement, because like by believing power corrupts. Like it's like, how do you not believe power? Because if if you think power is bad, me as one of your good friends, would you give, if you had a genie that said, B, I will allow you to give Julian power. I can grant you that ability to give Julian power. Would you give me power?
Well, I have enough conviction that you have good moral character that it would be less of a risk for me to say yes. So yeah, I think I would.
Right? And I would give you power, and I wouldn't give you anything bad. So like, I think power is good.
But it could. You're saying
It
I
could be bad.
I could be.
But like inherently, I think it's good. I would give my parents power. I would give you power, and I wouldn't give you guys anything bad though. So if I thought power was bad, you know what I mean. But at the same, so it's like,
I see
this one's difficult because I do think, power.
Okay.
Can, it's not necessarily the power. Like power is just like a force of strong influence. But again, if the person wants to influence for bad, then that power will in the wrong hands will do bad. But you know what I mean?
Power is
But
good
I
inherently.
think power is good.
But then I guess
There's a strong force.
Cause and effect of power could be.
Yes.
Bad.
So now we're going back to like the ability of power to influence, kind of is like fear, where it can, a powerful person can be good or do a lot of good or convince others maybe to influence them for good, which again, I think they're not born good, but power can change people for the better, but certainly can change people for the worse, or the wielder of that power, unfortunately, like you said, and what we learn a lot about, can do bad. The Adolf Hitler power can be bad. But yeah, power is an interesting one because, like you said, it can so easily, or I think we're taught of so many examples of people that have wielded power for the worse, vice the better.
That's hard too, because like, you know, we talked about in the work hard episode,
Okay.
how working hard doesn't really get you anywhere. As long, you know,
Well,
that was the whole that was the
just
topic.
work. Yep.
You know, we had a little side conversation in the episode about how people, or just the humans in general, take you know, they're gonna travel the road that has the least resistance.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think in this conversation, good versus bad, I think bad has less resistance, whereas good has more resistance. So naturally, inherently, people are going to be bad.
And people, I do think people will choose the path of less resistance. Like, I believe that to be true.
Like, easy example, like, I mean, everyone can relate to is like, if no one's on the road, speed limit 60, are you going 60 or are you going 80 or 75, right? Like I think we've all been in that situation.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's not good.
It's not right. Yeah, certainly not right. I don't know if it's, no, yeah, you're right. It's not good because the faster you go, the more risky,
Yeah, right.
the more dangerous. You can harm yourself, others. So yeah,
This is a very low, I mean, easy
Right,
example,
exactly.
but that kind of proves the point.
Okay.
Where if it wasn't for the recourse of bad judgment, you know, set aside by our, I guess, society,
Or law,
law, and then, I mean, everyone will be doing bad, or majority of the people will be doing bad. I feel like.
Yeah. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna try to spin off that, and right, you're saying it almost has to be reinforced to do good. So if people were born good, why do we teach ethics or
I mean,
leadership?
If people were really good, you wouldn't have laws,
right? In theory, yeah, I feel like we can dig it. Yeah.
But then we have laws because it's not the bad actors are committing these bad things. It's the minority of the people are good, majority of the people are bad. That's why there's laws.
I don't know if I agree with that. And even if like people can be born good. I don't even know if I agree with the statement. If people were born good, we wouldn't have laws, because people can be born good, but then through societal influences, environment, whatever,
if people are going,
they are shifted to fear, power. They're shifted bad. And upon that shift, it's like, okay, we need laws to course correct and contain the people that are shifting to bad. Again, if I'm speaking for the you know, people are born good.
If people are born good, societal norms will be good. There were to be a society to corrupt them as to be bad.
Yeah, if people are born good, If people are born good, you would think the majority would be good. I'm trying to think now. Do I think the majority is good or bad?
No, I'm saying because we're not good, it's not good right now. But then in a hypothetical
Right.
simulated world where everyone was, if 97% of the people were inherently good.
Yep.
They know they're not going to break laws. They're going to treat everybody like how they should be treated. But I would think the bad actors would be phased out. The 3% of bad people, like, I don't think they would come into power. I don't think they would be.
Okay, I see where you're going. I still think if you're born good, all those people you're saying with the bad actors and laws, that only comes into effect once you're older, once you're a contributing member to society, or you have a real, like, infants and baby, like, they don't have a real effect on the world, right? So you can be born good, you can be good through those highly influenceable phases, but then at a very young age, before you really affect society, you can be turned, influenced, shifted bad. Now you need the laws, all the etc. So again, theoretically, you can be born good, but still have a majority be bad because they shift.
But why would the
majority be bad? Like, why would
in the
they
first
shift?
place?
Right. Because something has to shift them,
Yeah.
i.e. society, which is good because they're born good. I see. Okay. Yeah.
So with,
I mean, it further, yeah,
it kind of goes back and that's why
yeah.
that's why humans are not good.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I also agree personally. I don't think people are born good. The blank slate theory. I think you're blank, but you're saying people are born blank, and then a lot of people are influenced to do bad. So, okay, is there anything outside of society that can influence people?
Society, like religion, that's outside society.
But we said we put religion in the good bucket. We say religion, I think, is going to shift people more good than bad because we think religion's inherently good.
Are you saying what would shift them to be bad?
Yeah, outside of other people. I don't.
Living conditions?
Yeah. Yes. You're born into bad living conditions. Now for the survival instincts, like, you're just trying to survive. You're not a bad person, but you're trying to survive. Therefore, you do things that are deemed bad by society to survive. And that's a good, that's part of society.
Yeah. And I think as a, like, I don't want to say this in a wrong way, but there's some things that males are good at. Yeah. More than the females. And there's other things that females are good at than the males, right?
I agree. But
with that being said,
conversation
with males, I think outside of society, societal influences, inside the instinct, I think men have more of the ambition, which could turn a person bad.
Ambition
from the good. Ambition itself is a
interesting
good thing.
because I'm saying I put ambition in the good bucket.
Ambition is good, but to get to, if it's like money, I think money is good.
But money with power. Money is good.
The money is inherently good. Right. It made a form of exchange very easy. But
money also,
trying to pursue the money could lead from the bad. Same thing as ambition. Like, to be ambitious, it's a pretty good, like, it's a good thing to be ambitious.
I want to be ambitious.
But then if you're too ambitious, where you're like, I'm willing to sacrifice millions of people so I can gain control power, I think that's like even if it doesn't have to be involved with people, it could be like, hey, if I could sacrifice this natural reserve thing that, we need for this world, I'm willing to sacrifice that for profits and power. It's
good stuff. Ooh, I feel like I put you on the spot a lot this episode, but true or false? Too much of any one thing is bad.
Yeah, true.
Right. Too much power could be bad. Too much ambition could be bad. Too much money can be bad. Yeah. Could too much good be bad?
Oh man, no, I don't. No.
Granted,
too much good. No.
Do we need? Okay. I'll maybe put a pin on that. Is there? Oh my God, I was reading something recently. Maybe it was a podcast that said, it just exists in a uniform, that there's balance in everything. If there's light, there's dark. If there's, I don't know, I can't think of another thing. But, if there's good, there has to be bad. Do we need some element of, and bad is such, again, it's such an arbitrary, it's such a like a broad bad. But do we need bad to have good? If everything is good, it's like nothing good. I don't know.
Oh, I
You probably haven't seen The Incredibles, the movie. One of my favorite animated movies. But there's a villain,
Wait,
and he's like
the redhead
redhead
right?
super villain, the red suits, Mr. Incredible, the big strong dude, missing Mr.
I seen it. I don't know.
Okay, you know of it. You guys seen the movie. The villain, he's like, in this one like monologue scene, he's like, if everyone's super, then nobody is. And it's kind of like, yeah, if superpowers is what makes you because you have the power and the majority doesn't, that's what makes it super. Like you're a minority, you're one of a kind, right? If everybody is super, like nobody's super because everybody's super. There's no separation. So if everybody's good, I kind of don't even know where I'm going with this.
You're saying everyone's
Everyone's
good.
good.
Such thing as being good.
Right.
It's
It's
just
just
a natural
normal. It's
state
just
of being.
it's just right. It's just a state of being.
I mean, it sounds like that would be better
Yeah.
than where we're at.
That might be it, right? Then our because I think society going back, right, aggression we said is good until society says it's bad now. Like, if you're at your job, like, oh, you're too aggressive. But at a time, aggression was good. Like you needed aggression. Selfishness, self-preservation was great. Like if I'm in a tribe and like you have a self-preserving mindset, you're on my team. Like I want you. Now it's like, it's kind of, I don't want that. It's not a team. So now I guess I'm projecting a future take on this whole thing. If everyone's like good, like, is there some desire for bad? I don't know, to show us what good is, or
bad things give you something that you want. I think that applies to everything. Even for the lunatic that tortures people and guilt, it gives them satisfaction. That's an extreme case.
Yeah.
Like speeding, maybe the other side of not the extreme.
Yeah. No.
But like that gets you have a perception. I mean, you do get somewhere faster by speeding. So all bad, I think, comes from, like a give and take. Like, hey, you perform this bad action in return of having something that you desire. I think.
Yeah. Yes. And on that, like, bad gives us regulation, which, right, it gives us like laws or rules. Now you could say like, okay, if everything's good, you wouldn't need laws and rules, but I don't know that. Like you invent cars, right? And you're driving and one day somebody goes faster. One day somebody goes faster. Now at a certain point, at a certain speed, people start dying. Now that's bad. Now you implement the law to regulate what, nobody's ever doing anything bad, but it's just like, it's all good, I guess, until it's not, I don't really know.
Okay.
I'm just
I see what you're saying.
trying to see if bad in a sense is needed in any way. According to the laws of I don't know, like to every yin there's a yang, to balance you would need some element of bad. But I certainly think you would want to minimize it if you did. You don't want it to be the majority or even not controlled. You'd want,
I think it can be the majority. I think we are in a majority. I mean, look at the politicians. I mean, like, they're in power.
Power, is that an example of power, right? Corrupting, maybe?
I mean, United States is one of the lesser corrupt, governments out there. But I mean, look at other countries. Not even in our government, right? Like we talked a lot about like Nancy Pelosi, the greatest stock trader of all time. Like, is that a coincidence or is she actually like gifted? Which I don't think she is. Not in the sense of like in governing, but like as a stock trader.
Right. I guess you. Yep.
Right. So I mean, that's a example that like everyone kind of heard of in social media. It's going around more and more. But here's bad. For all their gain.
Right. And again, and that also speaks to that narrative of these things that are inherently good that can turn. Yeah.
It has to. I mean, I think it does have to come from the higher up, I guess, like in government, to kind of like set an example, set like a mindset of like, hey, like we gotta start being good.
Right.
Like, and I think there's a bill on the table. I feel like it's not going to get passed because a lot of people partake in the insider trading within politics. But like, they say, hey, you can't trade stocks if you're a politician.
I heard. Yep.
Maybe you just buy and hold for, I don't know. You got to give a realistic period, right? Like if you buy something, you can't sell within 5 years or something like that, right?
Yeah. I didn't hear about this too. I didn't know if it was a bill, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's not signed into anything.
Yeah, no,
I
right.
don't think it will be. But then just to having the mindset of like from the top, like where they're regardless of not, if you're in the United States, they are the authoritative figure
Say the fair, yeah.
to change all this stuff. Like I just can't see a world where like society, like the citizens of the society, we all rebel against this topic. And we say, hey, you know what? We're gonna all be good.
Yeah.
But then as long as the people in the office that are supposed to represent us is not good, I don't think we'll ever change.
And
So,
yeah, that's a bold statement too. So do you think politics equates to power, which possibly equates to corruption? Maybe
not equal.
right. It's not a one for one. Yeah. Statistically, maybe. Yeah.
I think people get into politics to do good. I really think.
For sure.
But somewhere along the way, there's so much donation. Like, politicians are there to speak the mind of
Where's the representative?
whoever they're representing, right? Are they representing the people that voted for them, or are they representing the people that give them billions of dollars?
Got you.
I think Joe Biden's a great example. He was known he got into politics at like age 20 something, very early on. He's a vet, but he goes in. He was known for the people, or he was known as a politician that wasn't corrupted by the big amounts of money that
he used to get like
right,
funny him or whatever. Yeah,
but you kind of, you look somewhere along the way that changed a little bit, right? And then I think the notable figures remaining are like Bernie Sanders. Like, he's like, hey, I want to give what the people want, but guess what? He's not popular because he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
Billionaires can't influence him to do what they want to do. So he doesn't win the elections. Like, so it's, I don't know. There's a lot of
power,
all corrupt,
man. So yeah, we'll bring it back home. It's right. Like I guess this became twofold. Like, are people inherently good? And then, if you are inherently good, like, how influenceable are you? Because if you're highly influenceable, you could just be influenced to bad. what's the point of being inherently good? Yeah. Man, great conversation. Also, great points were brought up. It's always fun, but yeah, this was a fun one.
Don't trust people.
Don't. That's your takeaway?
Takeaways, don't trust people.
Yeah. And like I said, even with all that being said, right? I don't know if this is the definition of naive, but I personally, Julian, I give people I think people are good until proven innocent, right? However, I also don't think people are like born good. So maybe that doesn't make sense. Sure, I'm delusional. I'll take that. But it's nonetheless, it's a phenomenal point of conversation, and it goes against what society, I think for the most part, thinks people are born good. And for reasons stated, maybe that's not the case. That's the beauty of us being, your two favorite rebels. And again, if you have something to say, we'd love for you to provide feedback, drop in the comments. Maybe there'll be a part 2, who knows? But we certainly appreciate the conversation. B, you got anything to add to close? No, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you'll join us again next week.